Alright, so this is a review for Gargoyles Clan Building Volume 1. Yes, this does take place after the original Gargoyles, largely ignoring that painful show that we have called the Goliath Chronicles, with the exception of the first episode. I'll get to how that's laid out in a moment. I'm a huge fan of Gargoyles, have been since I was a kid. You know, it was quite easy to say that something would stick with you from when you was a kid, but if anything mostly stuck with me, it was the Gargoyle show in itself. It was smart, it was well written, subtle. It wound up being like kind of one of the methods for kids, like when you're watching it, you have fun learning something, but you think you're not learning something. That's kind of what the show was. And, you know, that was back at the time where I thought Disney was pretty cool for taking a chance and letting kids, you know, enjoy a show like this. Since I guess they needed something to kind of compare with the success of X-Men and Batman the Animated Series back from 2 years before when the show came out in '94. Anyways, Gargoyles Clan Building takes place after the last episode of the original series, the Hunter's Moon. This takes place after Hunter's Moon. And completely ignores the Goliath Chronicles, with the exception of issues 1 and 2 within this trade, which collects the first 6 issues. If anybody watched the Goliath Chronicles and you saw the episode The Journey, apparently Weissman wrote that, and that's the only one he acknowledges, so that one story, that one episode wound up becoming 2 issues, and it pretty much plays out the way that it did on the show, so there's not really a lot to comment about it. If you want to see it and you've just never watched it, go watch that one episode and then come back to this. So issues 1 and 2 are not really required reading, so not really much on that. The other 4 issues in this, though, are absolutely well done. The fault of the Goliath Chronicles, besides the fact that it was too preachy and just a terribly written continuance for Gargoyles, is the fact that Xanatos did not entirely change like that show made him out to be. Like, he suddenly turned into a good person. This, on the other hand, keeps him, you know, he's honor bound to, you know, help the Gargoyles, but he still is doing shady deals throughout this. Case in point, 3, 4, and 5 issues, or the 3rd, 4th, and 5th issues, which bring in him dealing with the Illuminati. Now, what's happening in these issues is that, you know, after the events of the Journey, Goliath and Elisa's relationship has kind of taken a sour turn for the worst, and they're angry with each other after dealing with a quarryman. And Xanatos is throwing this huge Halloween party on top of the Erie building, and the Gargoyles are going to pretty much do the same thing that they did in that first episode where Fox turned into the Werefox, and they're going to go in, or just go pretending to be people in gargoyle costumes. Elisa is mad at Goliath, so she asks Morgan, the black police officer, to take her to the ball. And, you know, Goliath is pissed about this, and, you know, before that, we get Thalog shows back up, reveals himself to be alive, and in fact is actually out to take more DNA samples from the Gargoyles so he can clone himself a new batch, because it wound up being that at the end of the episode where he and Demona toppled off into the roller coaster fire, the clan decided to be taken up with Talon in the Labyrinth. And, you know, he's kind of taught them to think for themselves. And they show up, and, you know, Goliath and Brooklyn go to visit, and, you know, one of the running gags throughout the television show was that Brooklyn has had terrible luck with women. Didn't work out with Maggie the cat, didn't work out with Angela, so he sees Delilah, and he, you know, genuinely tries picking her up. And, Goliath sees this as an opportunity to, keep a watch out for Thalog at the party. He's going to, step in front of Brooklyn, abuse his authority as the leader, and just, winds up taking Delilah to the party. And I was like, that was like a bad move on Goliath's part. I'm pathetic about explaining it, but, that was kind of a bad moment right there. And then there's something quite hilarious that happens later on, which you wind up feeling a little more sorry for Brooklyn at the end of this 3-issue arc. But Thalog shows up, and there's like this huge fight that ensues outside the party on top of Xanatos' castle, between Goliath and the rest of the clan, while Thalog is there collecting DNA samples. And we finally get our first showing of blood and our first swear word in the comics when, Thalog is wearing this gauntlet that has, different sword blades which shoot out. It can, rotate and shoot different blades out, and he winds up stabbing Goliath in the stomach, and then Angela leaps down and says, "You bastard!" And, he winds up swiping everybody. But, all in all, that it's actually a damn good story arc. I kind of like to see where this goes, and a lot of the stuff that winds up ensuing at the end of that is quite hilarious. And this is a damn good trade. Now, issue 6 is primarily a backstory. Everybody recalls the Avalon tour, which took place in Gargoyles, which was fine for a while, but tended to lag on a little bit too long. We have a backstory which is told to Thalog, who apparently has found a young woman who is now kind of serving him. We don't know who she is just yet, but she begins telling him a story of how she encountered, or actually saw Goliath, Angela, Elisa, and Bronx when they wound up in Tibet during the Avalon saga. And it's over there that Goliath meets Coldstone, and there's a huge battle that ensues there. I'm not going to go too much into what happens, but apparently the reason why it didn't make it into animation was because they kind of treated that their encounter with Thalog wound up having their memories wiped. And it's a really interesting story that takes place there. And there's something that's kind of foreshadowed from that particular story that will kind of carry over into the next trade, which I'm not going to talk about just yet, but is enough to have Thalog on the edge of his seat with worry. I kind of feel I've done a terrible job of explaining this, but I really enjoyed the comics. Sadly, they were not able to be completed in the way that Weissman had wanted to, but I still think this is a damn good trade to pick up. If you're a Gargoyles fan, I would definitely recommend picking this up. Or if you're a person who's just coming into Gargoyles for the first time and you've watched all of the episodes of it, I would definitely recommend picking up this trade. It's decently priced on Amazon. You can order it through Barnes & Noble, or you can just order it off of Amazon, because that's about the only place you're going to find it. And yeah, it's just that great. I do recommend picking this up.